Why the intervention is occurring. The Allies of Humanity Book 2 by Marshall V. Summers, second briefing. You may well ask at the outset, why is our world being visited? Why is there an intervention? There are several answers to these fundamental questions, some of which are very obvious and some of which are not. Obviously, this is a beautiful world with great biological diversity. It is a world that has not been destroyed through exploitation, though it is in danger of being so. It is a world that contains immense biological resources, life-giving resources, resources that are rare and difficult to find in a greater community of barren worlds. You, of course, do not yet realize the value of your own world. Having never lived abroad, you cannot yet appreciate the marvel of the world that you live in, and why it is so valuable to others. But consider this. You live in a world with a remarkably temperate environment and tremendous biological beauty and diversity. You live in a world that has enormous water resources. You live in a world that has large tracts of habitable land for those races that can breathe your atmosphere. You have a world now that has a human presence and infrastructure that can be incorporated into foreign technologies. You have a race of people who are intelligent, although superstitious and ignorant of life in the universe, thus making them malleable and susceptible to persuasion and inducement. You have a virtual paradise. This is how your world is perceived. When we first came to your world and observed it from a close proximity, we were amazed. It is far more beautiful and rich than we had imagined. Though we have never been on the surface of your world, we can see even from our vantage point what a glorious place it must be. We have seen interventions such as the one occurring in your world happening in worlds of far less value and merit. So certainly your world is like a prize. The question is whether you will defend it and protect it and maintain it. If you do not, others will surely take it from you. Have you not already seen this in the history of your own world, when tribes and indigenous peoples were overcome by foreign powers seeking advantage, and how the great wealth that these indigenous peoples possessed, even unknown to them, made their land and their world so valuable to others? Have you not seen this? Has this not been demonstrated in your world countless times? It is being so demonstrated even at this moment. And now you are the indigenous peoples, and powerful intervening forces are coming into your world, seeking to establish themselves through subtle means, seeking to unite with humanity in spirit and in flesh, seeking to gain a foundation here, from which they can develop their own authority and preeminence. Your world is so attractive. Surely you can see this if you think about it. 2. The collectives, who live mostly in technological environments. Such a world is grand, spectacular, and useful. Yet they are not driven by an artistic appreciation of your world. They are driven by the need for your world's resources. They see it as a prize, the best amongst many. They are surveying it even at this moment. The advent of nuclear weapons in your world triggered the intervention to go into its mature phase, for they realize that should you become stronger and have greater technological power, then the intervention will be more difficult to achieve. You believe that they are intervening to save you from your own self-destruction. But really they are seeking to intervene before the situation becomes too difficult. You have become powerful, but not yet powerful enough. They see your world's environment being destroyed, and they feel they cannot wait. These are perhaps the obvious reasons why your world is undergoing an intervention. But what about the reasons that are not so obvious? Let us speak of this now. Unknown to all, but a few individuals in the world today. There are important secret depositories in your world, for your world has been used for centuries by even gracious societies to hide things of value deep within your world. For millennia, your world has been a safe haven for the storage of sacred and powerful items. There are some in the hierarchy of the collectives who know of this, and that is why they give your world special importance. That is why they seek to use individuals in your world who have psychic abilities in order to gain access to those individuals who have an intrinsic knowledge of these important hidden treasures. After all, your world, with its vast biological resources, is an exquisite place to hide things, small things that can be buried deep underground in places that would be very difficult to discover. And because native peoples were superstitious and have sparsely populated the earth for so long, many things of value have been stored here. If you were to discover them, well, perhaps they would seem of little value or use to you, for you have not the skill or the knowledge to use them. But should they be discovered by you, this would make you extremely vulnerable in the greater community, for in one moment, you would have something that so many others would want. You would not have the skill or the means to protect what you had just discovered, and it would bring tremendous attention to your world, attention that you would not want. This is why the wise remain hidden in the universe. This is why objects of power, even wisdom itself, must be protected and guarded. It is the same in your world, surely. The wisest are the most hidden. Those who have the greatest knowledge are the hardest to find, except by those who are meant to find them. Some of these depositories have been destroyed through the natural cycles of your Earth's evolution. They have been destroyed through natural events, but some still exist. And because the intervention is underway, those who have stored these things long ago cannot return for their own safety. This is why it is true that humanity has been visited for a very long time, but there has never been an intervention of this magnitude or this nature before. This may be confusing to some people, for they think that the intervention is but another expression of an ongoing visitation and an ongoing alien presence in the world. But it is not really true. You do not yet have the skill to discern friend from foe, your allies from your adversaries, except through demonstration. And even here, it would take a deeper insight to make this determination. Some people will think that we are humanity's adversaries and that those intervening are humanity's allies. This is so obviously untrue, but it is not obvious to you, for you are without wisdom and awareness in these matters, and that is why we have come. Your world contains, then, great treasures in its biological diversity, in its water resources, in its temperate environment, and in its hidden treasures. Yet, there is another reason that the world is valuable, and this would not be obvious to you, for you could not recognize this from your vantage point. And that is that the world is in a strategic position that is valuable to other races. To understand this, you would have to have an overview of competition between collectives and the economic and political establishments in the region in which you live. There are many participants. There are conflicts, though war rarely exerts itself. Competition is carried out in more subtle and ingenious means, for technology can be shared, copied, and purchased. It is power in the mental environment, the power of persuasion, and the power of insight that holds the greatest advantage here. Humanity does not yet realize this, for it is still brutish in the exertion of its powers. But your education must begin at some time, and surely this is the time. Your world's strategic position adds to its importance. There are several collectives competing for preeminence in your world. They are competing with one another, though they are not at war. We are certain that you can think of examples of this within your own world. For example, many nations in your world could compete for the riches of a poorer country. Such competition is occurring now, and that is why the intervention has many faces. That is why you will see many different kinds of craft hovering above your lands. You will encounter different races of beings, and it will be very confusing, and you will think, some are good and some are bad, some are here to help and some maybe are not here to help. But you are only guessing, and it is only your hopeful expectations that would encourage you to think that anyone that is on the surface of your world is here for your good. Your allies will not intrude. Your allies will not seek to manipulate you or give you power that you cannot yet assume or give you technologies that you cannot yet use constructively. Your allies do not seek to conquer you or to make you part of their associations. This is you must choose freely, yet that is not the threshold that you are facing now. Before you can advance in the greater community, you must survive, and to survive, you must unite and protect your world from interventions such as is occurring here now. If you can secure your freedom, then intervention will be very difficult to achieve, by legal means at least. And you will have to become a power to be reckoned with, rather than a feeble race that is stewarding a beautiful planet. We believe in the great truth and power that exists in the human heart, or we would not have made the long journey to come here. All placed ourselves at such great risk to spend these years observing the intervention and its activities. Your allies believe in the promise of humanity. However, such respect you will find rare in the greater community. For as is true in so many places, your value and your worth will be determined by what you own, what you can trade, what you can sell, what you can surrender. This is life. This is nature. Technology does not change this. You must learn this. If you believe that technology is your salvation, you will be saved for another race who is technologically superior to you. Please hear our words here. We speak from great experience. We cannot prove these things to you until you can see them yourself. And when you see them yourself, it will be so obvious. The intervention is so obvious, but who can see it? From your vantage point, it is far more difficult to recognize. And until you can have a greater community education and perspective, until you learn about the realities of the greater community, how can you possibly understand? Your heart will know, but can you listen? People want a happy outcome. People want to avoid conflict and challenge. People do not want to change, necessarily. Yet that is not what life brings. Humanity must become far stronger than it is today. Human freedom must be the rallying cry. So when you ask, why our world? You must recognize these things that we have mentioned. What is obvious, you will be able to see. What is not obvious, you will not be able to see, but you can still understand. You may choose, of course, to distrust our words. You may believe that it is impossible that we could communicate to you in this way. You may doubt the whole process by which we communicate. You may cast away our counsel. We understand. But you must follow the wisdom that lives within you to really know, and if you really know, then you will know that we are being true with you. This is where the real proof will occur. If you seek a proof in demonstration only, well, you can be persuaded of many things. But only knowledge within you can be persuaded by the truth itself. It cannot be deceived. This is your strongest and greatest hope. This is the greatest power in the universe, and your visitors do not use it. This is the key. Learn the way of knowledge, and you will have the key. If you want things to be shown to you, well, you will be led astray. You will be led persuaded by other powers. You will follow what you want instead of what you truly know. The world will be given away, and the occupation will become complete. You live at a critical moment, perhaps the greatest moment in your world's history. You have come at a great time. Is this an accident? Is it a mistake? Or was it meant to be this way? You who may be unsettled in your life, seeking a greater reality and a greater meaning, surely you must consider this. You are the indigenous peoples of a world that is being visited for the purpose of conquest and domination. How will you respond? The choice is yours. We can only advise. No one in the greater community is going to come and rescue you. The wise do not do that. Perhaps you question this and say, why not? You must trust us in this matter, because should we intervene in a military fashion, should we gather the strength to do that, our worlds would be jeopardized. We would be functioning outside our jurisdiction. We would be functioning outside our jurisdiction, violating the rules of conduct of that jurisdiction. Can you see this? Even so, if humanity is to become strong and independent in the universe, it must establish its own strength and independence. It cannot be rescued. What is confronting you is the reality of life in the universe. It is not an evil power. It is not a sinister force. It is just the strong taking advantage of the weak, if it can. That is nature. That is life. Until you reach a greater spiritual understanding, an understanding of knowledge, then that is the life that is real. Knowledge is as rare in the universe as it is within your own world. Many people place all their hope on being saved by a greater race. How will they know their allies from their adversaries? They are but ripe for the intervention. They will seek to unite with the intervention, believing it will save humanity from itself, believing what your visitors themselves believe, for they are convinced that humanity is far too unruly and disorganized and unworthy even to live in such a valuable place. You cannot have a fanciful, romantic view of life in the universe if you are to understand it and prepare for it accordingly. You must have wisdom and sobriety. You must be without self-deception in this matter. You are living in an environment of tremendous persuasion, not only persuasion between people, but persuasion from the greater community that is in your midst. How will you overcome and offset this influence in your life? We must be emphatic and repetitive in what we are emphasizing because we want to assist you in overcoming these influences that would keep you in a state of confusion or ambivalence regarding the very forces that are threatening your well-being at this time. You have never been in a situation like this before. Certainly, you have never faced an intervention of this magnitude. People will deny its existence. They will laugh at it. They will scorn it. They do not want it to be true. They do not want it to be real. But that does not change the reality. Since our first set of briefings, we understand that many people have asked about our names and our identities, where we have come from, and so forth, as if they must know these things in order to trust our words. But we cannot impart them, for we must remain hidden, or we will be in great danger. And your allies who have sent us to be near the world will be in great danger as well. The trust must come from a deeper understanding. It is not information you need as much as perspective. If you cannot see the situation clearly, what good is having more information? If you cannot know the truth in your own heart, what will the information provide for you? You need a little information. You need a lot of perspective, and you need a lot of courage. Why is your world being visited? Why is there intervention? Think of these things, and you will see clearly. It is so obvious.